record player anymore. Not realizing that the kids are crazy about records these days. But maybe that's just a generational thing. I don't know. So that was one. And then, a writer and a letterpress artist collaborated on this really wonderful, totally obscene short story about a bear. And they had it typeset and printed onto this really nice rag paper. So that's how a writer was able to collaborate with an artist. So it can be people in any discipline, that are involved with this. I mean, it doesn't necessarily just have to be people that are making kind of discrete objects. It can be anybody, as long as they're able to figure out a way to kind of work within the spirit of the project. So what else? Partnerships and events. They're a big part of making the CSA program work. Springboard is obviously an arts organization, but this has been done all over the country by all sorts of different organizations, and even a couple of individual artists have been involved. But it's definitely, if this was a program that you wanted to replicate in your community, you would definitely be well advised to, get involved with some kind of arts organization. Galleries, museums, arts advocacy groups, art retailers, art supply retailers obviously work really well. There's a natural crossover with food organizations, restaurants, co-ops, farms, markets, agricultural groups, anybody in your community that is working with food. Because people that are working with food, they already get this. They already understand the relationship between the consumer and the person making, the product, whether that's food or whether that is art. In media, newspapers, magazines, community newsletters, art blogs, food blogs, anything out there. Any group that's already got kind of an audience built in that's going to make it easier for you to get word about this project out. And there's, it doesn't have to just be the art that is in the CSA shares. You can also throw in coupons, recipes, tickets to upcoming events, magazine subscriptions, t-shirts, publications, additional small artworks, anything that your partner organizations are willing to put in there. Is just kind of a plus for people that are interested in buying a share to buy one. So you have 9 pieces of art. You have 50 shares, right? And you have 9 pieces of art. So typically the way we've done that is we've broken that up into 3 pickup events. You go and you pick up 3 pieces of art at a time. One in June, one in July, one in August. You call these pickup events. You want to make something that's really enjoyable for people to come out to. That can be something that already is existing. Maybe it's like an art fair. Maybe it's a gallery opening of some kind. Maybe there's public events or festivals or gatherings, with community groups that you could be involved with. Farmers markets, restaurants are obvious. Or maybe it's just an event like in a studio space. Maybe one of the artists that you have involved has a really, nice, well-lit painting studio, and you want to do the event there because the kind of people that, people that are going to be buying shares may not have ever been in a studio before. And, as artists, we kind of take for granted that a studio is something that everybody knows about, but that's of course not true. Lots of people have never seen the inside of an artist studio, and to create that access, to create that way for people to come into an artist studio and actually see where their work was made and how it was made in that environment can be a really, pretty exciting thing. Especially if you compare it with some existing event, or hiring a band or having, a beatbox or whatever it is you want to do. So Springboard CSA program kind of exists in 2 different parts. We've run 4 different iterations of the program for the last 2 years. We've run it 4 different times, but we've also wanted people to do this in their own communities. This is not a proprietary thing. This is something that we thought up, but it's not, it's not a proprietary thing. This is something we would like to see happen all over the country by all kinds of arts organizations. And we've been really lucky because it has been replicated. What we did is 2 years ago we made a replication kit, just about a 25, 30-page PDF document that has, sample contracts, sample letters, press releases, a lot of this information you're seeing there. Basically just kind of the nuts and bolts of how to run a CSA program. A sample budget, the kinds of things that you would want to see if you were replicating a project. And so we make those available for $45 for organizations and $25 for small organizations and individual artists. So anybody can, give me a call at work and say, I'd like to try CSA in my, neighborhood or my city or my town. And I will send them a replication kit, and they can kind of take it from there. It's a really sort of self-starting kind of idea. Just a few: Contemporary Art Space in Chicago, an adult education center in Cambridge, Massachusetts, a visual arts education center in suburban Maryland, a college student in rural Pennsylvania. So it's worked in all kinds of different environments. Obviously, the Contemporary Art Space in Chicago already had a base of very engaged, very sophisticated art people, contemporary art people. But an adult education center, is obviously a very different kind of organization. And the kinds of artists that were chosen by each of these organizations, has varied a great deal depending, on what those communities were like and what the people running the program thought that the people in their community would be interested in. Three Walls Gallery was the one in Chicago. I thought they had the best logo of all of them. They got that little star up in the corner. It's the Chicago star. It's got 6 points on it. It's the only star in any flag in the United States that's got 6 points on it. So if you didn't get anything out of this whole thing, you got that. But they had this really nice kind of retro quality to their packaging. And here's some examples of all the fun that goes into the packing process. And they had these really nice kind of raw wooden crates that all the artwork went in. Here was the one in Maryland, suburban Maryland, the Delaplane Visual Arts Education Center. As you can see, ceramics obviously work really nicely. Not as nice as the ceramics that you would purchase on the farm from earlier today, but they can't all be winners. And yeah, you can just see these different approaches to packaging the art and what it actually looks like. And there's 26 active programs right now in the country. That's everywhere from Philadelphia, Miami, Detroit, Nashville, Fargo, Flint, Michigan, Iowa City, Washington, D.C., Macon, Georgia. So it's really run the gamut from really large cities to really small cities and everything in between. So it's meant to be a really flexible program. It's meant to work wherever it's planted, basically.
Has anybody ever done it with, combined with agriculture and, just a couple artists work together with a farmer or anything?
Shockingly, no.
Okay.
That seems like a really obvious thing.
Yeah.
But that's actually never been done, I don't think. So if any of you out there listening, it could be the time. The green ones are places where it has been implemented. The light blue ones, I think, are places where it's planned, and the dark blue ones are places where it's pending. So you can see it's a really good swath. Even just in Minnesota, there was one in North Minneapolis. There was obviously the one that we did. There was one in Mancherville, which is very far up in the northwest part. That one just launched. There was one in Fargo-Moorhead, and the Duluth Institute of Art, I believe, has one on the way. So even just in Minnesota, there's been a few. But you can see, it's all over the place in all kinds of different parts of the country. So, your internal alarm may have gone off when I told you that artists were being paid $1,000 to make 50 pieces of work. And you might think, well, gosh, I don't know. Is that fair? That only comes out to $20 a pop. What does that mean? Well, there's a couple ways to look at it here, okay? So, a CSA is not a fundraiser for your organization. There have been organizations that have tried to make it a fundraiser, and it just doesn't work. The economics aren't there. It's meant to basically be kind of a break-even proposition, with most of the money going to the artists. So in that way, too, it's not meant to be a sole means of income for the artist. If an artist was out there making his or her sole living doing CSAs, everybody's going to be in the poorhouse in no time. And it's not meant to be, either sort of like a wacky grab bag, just a bunch of crazy art that we found laying around the county. It's a more intentional, product, that is put together in a really intentional sort of way. What it is meant to do is this. There was an artist that was involved 2 years ago that put it to me like this, and I thought this was really smart, actually. He did these really beautiful wooden bowls that he packaged just totally beautifully. And, when I got them, I said, wow. And he put his contact information very prominently on a card on the front. And, I looked at it and I said, wow, this is a really beautiful piece of work. And he goes, yeah, well, it's pretty good. I really just thought of it as a really elaborate business card that I was paid $20 to make. And so in that sense, that's kind of what it is. And it's kind of a crude way to put it, obviously. But what it does is it puts your work into the hands of 50 people that probably would not have purchased, your work otherwise, or might not have even known about your work. The idea is that it gets it right in their hands and kind of whets their appetite for more. Now, obviously, all 50 people are not going to be, making a lunge for their phone and giving you a call in your studio like right away. But even if a small percentage of those people, are willing to make a commission or come to a studio visit, it's been a worthwhile endeavor. When we kind of took the evaluations from the first couple of seasons, 45% of the people said they had plans to buy art from the CSA artists. And we wanted to be very careful in the way we phrased that question. I think we phrased it, do you, have definite plans? Do you have, some vague idea, or are you not interested? And 45 people were willing to say that they had plans to buy more artwork. 40% of the shareholders were not familiar with a single one of the artists before it went out. The idea of the CSA model is that it is kind of a novelty. It's a really interesting way to buy art that, has not typically been done in a lot of other communities. So people are really willing to sign on, even without having any idea who any of the artists are. As you can see, 35% were familiar with 1 to 2. So they said, well, I know this person, I know this guy, close enough. If the other 7 pieces are on the same level as those first 2, I'm sold. And 60% of the people said they attended either none or only 1 to 2 art openings, performances, or art-related activities each month. That doesn't mean that they're not interested in art. All that means is that they just obviously don't have that access point into the arts community, into the arts world. I mean, the art world can be a very intimidating thing for people that are not intimately involved in it. And what this does, we hope, is creates, a bridge that, makes that world more accessible to people that, otherwise would not be out there, buying or looking at art. And these were a couple quotes that I really liked from the first couple of seasons from shareholders. I really don't know a lot about the local art scene and have always wanted to learn more. Frankly, I'm intimidated by the art culture community for fear of being looked down upon. I have a CSA share, and I see a lot of similarities. They have an agricultural CSA share. So, it's this very unintimidating way to kind of meet 9 different artists and have them in your house and hopefully, put a hand out and learn more. Prior to joining the CSA, I never would have ventured to try something other than safe veggies like potatoes and carrots. Now I eat and love parsnips, chard, ramps, and so many other wonderful things I didn't even know existed, or if I did, was too scared to try or too cheap to spend money on. I fully expect to get some art I don't like in this share. And that's part of the deal. I mean, not everybody's going to be into a belt buckle with a deer on it. I don't know why, because it's awesome, but that's maybe not everybody's taste. So inevitably, in 9 pieces of work, you're going to get one that doesn't tickle your fancy in the most direct way. But so it is with CSAs. Chart is not for everybody. You're not going to hate all of the work in it, but you're certainly going to be able to find something in there, probably the majority of it, we hope, that you find to your liking. I also fully expect that I will get some art that I respond to and fall in love with, and that I will never otherwise have taken the time to experience. And that's kind of like the perfect scenario. That's exactly what we want to happen with this program. So like I said, interested? This is something that, we've been in the business more of selling the replication kits recently than doing the program itself. And this is something that we've seen happen all across the country, and we'd be excited to see more of pop up, in all types of communities. So if this sounds like the kind of initiative that you would like to spearhead in your own community, just get in touch with me. I have some cards afterwards, or if you just go to the Springboard website, I'm there, somewhere. And get in touch and say hi. So I left about 3 minutes for questions. I really apologize for that. But does anybody have? Yeah.
I have 2 questions. One has to do with marketing.
Yeah.
Did Springboard do all the marketing, and how did you get your interest out there so that people who wanted to be shareholders could purchase a share?
Okay, that's sort of a that was a two-tiered process, I would say. By putting the call for work out, explaining what the project was, and then recruiting jurors from the local arts community, I think in that very earliest stage we created a sense in the